Counter-Strike 2 Pickems are here. We all want that diamond coin. You will always be able to say you got the first diamond coin in CS2. But the Pickems have changed, boys. And I'm not going to lie, this new system is scary. This terrifies me. So what's changed is you can now pick 2 teams for 0-3. Okay, that's good. Okay, there's a total of 10 points to get now. That's good. You still only need 5. But you have to pick 2 teams for 3-0. And if they make it through, but they don't make it through 3-0, you don't get the point. And then there's this section where a team has to go 3-1 or 3-2 and make it through. And this is scary, man, because just think about it. If you pick the 2 favorites to go through 3-0, and then they don't make it through 3-0, and they make it through 3-1, you don't get points for this section. And then you also miss out on teams that are going to make it through in this section. So, even though everyone seems to be saying you should put the favourites in 3-0 now, I'm not so sure. Because let's look at the previous tournaments. Let's just look at the previous tournaments. The previous majors. Okay. G2 and FaZe were the favourites at the Blast Paris Major to make it through 3-0. And it was ENCE and G2 who made it through. So, only one of the favourites made it. IEM Rio Major. Vitality and Cloud9 were the 2 highest ranked teams. You look up. Neither of them made it through 3-0. Bad News Eagles and Mouse did. And then you'd be screwed. Okay, Antwerp, ENCE and G2 were the 2 favorites. You go ahead and look. G2 and Vitality made it through. So again, just 1 out of 2. PGL Stockholm, Heroic and Astralis were the 2 highest ranked teams coming into this stage. Neither of them made it through 3-0. And then the Star Ladder Major, Vitality and NRG were the 2 highest ranked teams. And neither of them made it through 3-0. So if that happens, you're actually in a bit of trouble. If you pick 2 teams to go 3-0 and they don't go 3-0, you've got a maximum of 6 points remaining because you can't get their points down here, assuming they still go through. So let's start with, if we're going for the 10 out of 10, I'm going to start by saying that because I think a lot of you guys will still want to do that, and I understand why. Let's just start with the 0-3 section. I think this is the most obvious, and I'm not going to lie, I think Linvision is a team you probably just should be picking here. The Asian region is generally weak. Mongols smashed the Asian RMR, but Linvision, even in the games that they were winning, like, I don't think the quality of Counter-Strike was that high. I just don't even think they have the star power that previous Asian teams have had. And in general, I don't trust the quality of Counter-Strike to transfer when coming international. So, Linvision for me, pretty obvious 0-3 team. I think the other one, there's a couple of choices, but I'm not going to lie. The Americas RMR looked pretty weak. The quality of Counter-Strike didn't look great. I think you're probably between Legacy, Imperial, and Pain. The problem is, Pain are probably going to play against Linvision in the 0-2 matchup or the 0-1 matchup. And so I'd rather not go Pain, even though I don't think they're a great team. I don't think there's much that separates these 3, to be honest with you. So then between Imperial and Legacy, I mean, listen, it's tough. I actually don't think Imperial are as good as people are claiming. A lot of people have them as like a dark horse almost. I just think they were massively overperforming individually at the RMR, and I don't think they play that good Team CS, but I think Legacy are probably slightly worse overall. I honestly don't hate if you want to go with Pain as well, because they're a pretty inexperienced team, but I just think they probably end up beating Linvision in the earlier matchup, so I'll go with Legacy. I think you can really go with either of these teams, though. There's a bit of a toss-up there. Okay, now, if we're going for the full 10 out of 10, which I know a lot of you will want to go for, I think the 3-0 are actually fairly obvious. I think the most likely are going to be Eternal Fire first. They've got a pretty comfortable run through their opening couple of matchups. They should get good draws based on their seeding. They're one of the highest seeded teams here. And they're actually a really structured and really solid team now. I think Wakadia has come in and been such an important piece to this team. Now they have a bit more firepower. They actually look like a real threat because of that. And they always felt like they just didn't have that final player. But yeah, I actually really like what I see from Eternal Fire. They've always had good structure. All speak the same language, which helps. And you've obviously got someone like Xantares, which is great. Woxic will generally do a pretty good job on the AWP as well. They've got some experience. I like this team for 3-0 if you're going for 10 out of 10. And I do think you go Cloud9 as well. And I mean, this is why it's so scary to me, because I'm not going to lie, Cloud9, yeah, they're probably the best team here on paper. But dude, this team, like, they could absolutely lose a BO1. Let's be real. They don't have an AWPer. We know that they've got a lot of rifling talent. I know the electronic is great and should continue to be great. And generally, they are pretty well-rounded. But they still, they still seem like a team that could drop a BO1. I know they've got good seeding, but man, it's already looking a bit sketchy. Okay, in terms of the 3-1 and 3-2 teams, I think there's some pretty comfortable ones. Heroic are really good, and in some of the matchups that I have seen with my predictions, Heroic end up playing Cloud9 in a best of 3. I actually think if that happened, Heroic could take that easily. They might not be favorites odds-wise, but I really like this team. I never thought Kicksound was like some crazy, intelligent in-game leader, but he's clearly making all his players perform way better on his previous team Apex and now here on Heroic. So he clearly is a good in-game leader. Nertz is still fantastic. He is someone who can just take over at this stage. He might be the best player, honestly. He might be the best player at this stage overall. So look like a pretty good team. They've got up to speed pretty quickly. I do think Ents are a team you take to go through. Yeah, listen, they don't look like they've got that much firepower, but Glaive has done really well with this team. It seems like they're just way more structured than I'd have thought they'd be this quickly. So I think you take them to go through. I also like Apex, surprisingly. I'm not going to lie, when I watch this team play, I don't think they play like the most beautiful Counter-Strike, but they just seem to grind out wins. And for that reason, I have to pick them. I think Stiko has been actually really good. He's only playing for this team for this major cycle, and he has been showing that he absolutely has more to offer. And even though they don't have an experienced in-game leader, they've got Sense in-game leading, Pickem is just so consistent. I love this guy. What a stud. What a reliable piece to have. I think Nork is a pretty good AWPer at this stage. And then Sassanito can be very inconsistent, but sometimes he is going to carry you a map or two, and that should help push them into this section. Okay, next. You probably have to go with, I mean, for me, I'm not going to lie, Mongols. Mongols are actually really solid. I think firepower-wise, they're like pretty good, but the main thing is, they stomped the Asian RMR, and they keep coming to EU tournaments and playing a really good brand of Counter-Strike. You can see the team coordination, you can see the overall plans that these guys have. They don't play like an Asian team that just go crazy and spread across the map and just try and take fights. They play really late round CS sometimes. They can actually honestly look like a veteran team at sometimes in the way they play. They look so comfortable in tight scenarios. I've seen them win plenty of overtime games. Yeah, I think they're actually a very good team here, and I think they should be making it through. Next, I think I probably do have to go with Furia. I'm still not sure where I sit on Furia. The problem is, yes, you have Keserato and Yuri. These are two incredible players. They should be some of the best players at this stage. Keserato and Nertz are probably the two competing for best player at this stage of the tournament. But the problem is, the reason they did well at the Americas RMR is because Art played really well. And I find he can oftentimes do good against regional competition. He can do really well against lower ranked teams. I don't think that always transitions against the top tier teams. And then you've got Fallen, who's never going to be a massive fragger on the AWP. And then you've got Cello, who I think is doing well in his roles, but he doesn't normally put up massive numbers. So it feels like you kind of need Art to be the third star on this team, and that can be inconsistent. We know that based on his play style. But I still think Keserato and Yuri, those two alone, should give you the firepower to make it through this stage. And you actually look at some of their poor tournament runs. I think it was at Katowice, for example. They actually lost against Apex and Mongols, who are two teams that at the time we weren't sure were that good. But now looking back, we can say they are very good. So I think Furia are good enough to make it through here. And then for the final pick, I think you've got a few options. I'm not going to lie. I would say Ecstatic are an underrated team. Their structure and team play is very good. They have that classic Danish thing going on where they always look like they have good plans and good ideas. I just don't think the players have enough experience, and they're also a very evenly balanced team in fragging, so they don't have players that are just going to step up and carry maps that much for you, which I think unfortunately might cause them to have some issues here. I just don't think they have the individual ability. Amcal are a team who just seem crazy inconsistent. I don't really know what to think of them. I think you could put them through, but I just don't think I trust them enough here. Then it's between Saw and 9 Pandas. Saw had a very good run at Blast recently. They beat some top teams, including Cloud9. That was online, though. You have to remember that was online. Meanwhile, 9 Pandas look like they've just been a solidly improving team for a while now. I'm glad CC's still doing things, and I think they're probably just slightly more reliable here. So, it's tough, but I think I would go with 9 Pandas. I just feel like Saw could be a trap. Seeing them play so well online, I'm not entirely sure that they can transition that onto LAN. We'll see, though, because, listen, this is a team that has tried to make it to Majors so many times in the past. They couldn't make it in CSGO. I'm really happy to see them here, and this is a toss-up for me, to be honest. But this is what I would go with if I was going for the 10 out of 10, okay? So we can save that. Now, the question is, do you actually want to go for this? Because, again, remember, if Eternal Fire or Cloud9 end up going through 3 and 1, which, based on the history, it seems like there's a decent chance that both of the favorites might not make it through 3 and 0. All of a sudden, they're going to make it through in this section. I'm not going to get these points. I'm down to only, what, 6 out of 10? I still think, personally, I'm going to put underdogs in the 3 and 0. Okay? And I think the perfect underdog to do it is Saw. I'm switching Saw in here. I think that, based on what I saw online, they're a team that could either come in here, bring in that momentum, that recent good form, and just absolutely stomp this stage, or they could crash out. And that means I want to put Eternal Fire through, and I'm going to put them in for 9 Pandas. And then Cloud9, dude, this is a team that could easily drop a map, or even 2 in the earlier stages for me. If I'm taking a team out of this section, though, that's the tough thing. Who the hell am I taking out? Oh, man, it's not easy. For some reason, I feel like whoever I take out, I want to put in for 3 and 0 instead, which kind of makes this interesting. Based on, I think, like, matchups, I'm tempted to say Ents, but the problem is, Ents have pretty easy matchups early on, but that means they'll probably make it through as well, so maybe I'll just go, like, Furia. I don't know, man. It's so hard. I think I do, because I'm just so scared that these teams are going to drop a map, and I'd rather have, like, at least one of these points locked in here, and I think that maybe makes me safer. I do think it makes me safer. It's so hard to know, though. I'm going to be really interested to see how this plays out. But as I said earlier, if you want to go 10 out of 10, I think most people will do that. You take my earlier picks. If not, I think you go with this instead. And yeah, these are going to be the picks I lock in. We'll see how it does. If you've just skipped to the end of the video, make sure to skip back and explain my explanation. These are not my favorite teams to go 3-0. I still think you should pick underdogs here. But I also understand, if you want to go 10 out of 10, if you just want to go safe in this new format, rewind, you'll see my older picks and the teams I actually think are favored to make it through. But let's lock that in. Thank you guys for watching. I can de-stress slightly now that I've got them locked in, and let's hope we make it through to the next stage and get those 5 out of 10 we need.